My neighbor unveiled a hidden truth about my wife, prompting me to meticulously gather all evidence and initiate divorce proceedings. I am known as Michael Anderson. Up until October 16, 2010, the most challenging day I had ever faced was April 20th of that same year. It was then that I returned home prematurely from a business trip, only to discover my wife of 6 years, Emily, entwined in bed with Joshua Carter. Further details on the events of October 16th will be provided later. Emily's betrayal didn't entirely catch me off guard. She had grown discontent with both me and the way we lived our lives. The recent recession struck us with considerable force, leaving us grappling with the weight of our mortgage obligations. Our home held a value that fell short of our liabilities. Emily contemplated giving up, yet I held on to the conviction that we could persevere together. With a sense of exasperation, she had been adamant about purchasing a sprawling house, and now the majority of our earnings were consumed by mortgage payments. Ever since Christmas, when Emily found herself disheartened by her gift, she had become quite challenging to deal with. No matter my efforts, her happiness remained elusive. Our daughter Lily was the sole source of joy in my life. The joy that radiated from her upon my return stood in stark opposition to the disdain etched on Emily's face. From the very beginning, marrying Emily proved to be a misstep. Emerging from the shadows of our past relationships, we hastily stepped into the realm of marriage, driven by a sense of exclusion from our circle of married friends. In spite of the tumultuous beginnings, my heart found its home in Emily, a feeling that deepened profoundly with the arrival of Tina. While some couples drift apart after welcoming children into their lives, I believed our connection was deepening, or so I thought. It appears that Emily was either a remarkable performer or possessed a duality of self. Up until the close of the previous year, I was convinced that our bond was robust and our family life was filled with joy. Oh, how foolish of me that I informed Emily that my return from the business trip would be on Thursday, yet I found myself back on Wednesday instead. Emily dedicated her mornings to work, leaving her afternoons open while Lily attended school. I resolved to catch her off guard as I navigated our street. An unfamiliar car caught my eye. Emily's actions were indeed thoughtless, yet our unfamiliarity with the neighbors lingered, and the desolation of the street, a consequence of the housing crisis, only deepened the sense of isolation. I stepped into the house, the clamor from the master bedroom rendering silence unnecessary. I lingered for a moment, capturing images on my phone, a wave of profound sadness washing over me as the reality of my marriage's end settled in. We were unable to rise above the wounds of infidelity and betrayal. Now I was confronted with the reality of how much more dire our financial situation would become as I transitioned into the role of a part-time father. I would forfeit the precious moments of embracing my daughter each day and cherishing the woman I have fallen in love with. Emily caught sight of me and shouted, "Get out of here, Charlie! What on earth brings you home today?" In a state of shock, my response was far from graceful. I seized Emily's hair, drawing her face near my own, and shouted, "You're an idiot. Do you truly question my decision to return home ahead of schedule? You're in my bed with that jerk, and you dare to confront me?" Amidst the whirlwind of commotion, I failed to perceive Trent lurking behind me. He dialed for help, and amidst our shouts, the police arrived on the scene. Trent, swathed in a sheet, greeted them at the threshold. They stormed into the bedroom, witnessed the scene of me tugging at Emily's hair, and took me into custody. After a few days, I managed to post bail, only to discover that our accounts had been drained and Emily had vanished with Tina. Upon my return, I found the house devoid of life. Upon my return to the office on Monday, I found a bailiff awaiting my arrival. Emily initiated divorce proceedings, alleging both mental and physical mistreatment on my part. I filed a countersuit for infidelity, yet it proved to be of no assistance. The courts granted custody to Emily, and I found myself obligated to pay both child support and alimony. My credit took a nosedive after I sold the house. Even with my job intact, chaos reigned in my life. Had it not been for Tina, I would have departed from this town. A silver lining emerged in the form of being exonerated from assault charges. I found myself lingering in Johnny's tavern far too often, surrounded by the ramblings of inebriated souls vowing that they would never allow such a fate to befall them. Some claimed I lacked the qualities of a true man for allowing another to take my wife from me. I changed venues after being subjected to the refrain of fool, fool, fool one too many times. As I stepped out of the bar that night, a sense of disrespect lingered in the air. My colleagues either looked upon me with pity or held me in disdain. I began to ponder the counsel of the intoxicated regarding retribution. They brimmed with confidence, boasting of the vengeance they would exact upon those who had shattered my existence. On a Sunday afternoon, as I sat with Lily at my parents' house, I opened up about my sense of powerlessness over steaming cups of coffee. My parents were taken aback, and it was my father who finally shattered the stillness. "Are you seeking vengeance, Charlie?" my father inquired. "I'm not quite sure, Dad. There's an undeniable urge within me, a compelling need to take action. Revenge weaves a tangled web, my boy. It appears to occupy a space, yet seldom does it truly fulfill that promise. It has the potential to spiral into chaos. You respond in kind, and soon their allies or kin retaliate. Simply inquire with any member of a Chicago gang about the effectiveness of the eye for an eye principle." I held a deep respect for my father's method of tackling challenges, contemplating prior to taking action. Yet betrayal was the last thing I desired. "Charlie, it would truly sadden me to see you pursue vengeance. I expected more from you. Let's just move on. Conflict seldom leads to resolution." In defiance of my father's counsel, one fateful Saturday night, the stars seemed to align perfectly. Upon exiting the diner, my gaze fell upon Trent and Emily, who were making their way out of a lavish restaurant across the street. As they stood in anticipation of the valet's arrival, their lips met in a tender kiss. A stunning Lexus glided to a stop, and they eagerly climbed inside. As the vehicle departed, I caught sight of Emily's head sinking into Trent's lap. I approached my trusty old Chevy, settled into the seat, and let out a string of curses, my fists striking the steering wheel in frustration. Once I found my composure, I turned the ignition. The car, the sole vehicle within my limited means now that my finances lay in tatters, struggled to come to life. I believed I had unraveled every thread of the mystery. Several weeks later, I found myself seeking out Trent under the cover of night. Before he realized what was happening, I was striking him in the ribs with a bat. I steered clear of his head, not aiming to end his existence, merely to incapacitate him. I swung once more, shattering his right leg, followed by his right arm as he sprawled on the ground. Desperately seeking to shield himself, I took careful aim at his groin. A voice rang out, "I've already called the police." I sprinted, flinging the bat, jacket, and mask into a dumpster 3 blocks distant. The next time I arrived to collect Tina, Emily confronted me with a pointed question. "Did you attack Trent?" I intended to make Emily sweat, so I merely smirked, neither confirming nor denying anything. That I found myself at the center of suspicion, with the police interrogating me on several occasions. I found myself without an alibi, merely stating that I had passed the evening in solitude within the confines of my apartment. No witnesses emerged from the shadows, and the weapon remained elusive, lost to time. The sole motive that connected me to the crime. Then one of the patrons from Johnny's found himself in a predicament and attempted to negotiate a deal. He informed the police that he was aware of who had struck Trent with a bat, asserting that I had boasted about it. The inebriated man was weaving tales, yet the authorities and district attorney appeared indifferent. I faced charges of aggravated assault and attempted homicide. Due to my constrained financial situation, a public defender was appointed to represent me. The prosecution's argument hinged on circumstantial evidence and the unreliable words of an intoxicated witness. The jury acquitted me of attempted homicide, yet convicted me of aggravated assault. I found myself unable to contest vigorously. I would take my stance in Trent, wielding the bat with intent. One fortunate element aligned in my favor. 3 months elapsed between the assault and the sentencing, during which time Trent's injuries had largely mended. The judge bestowed upon me a more lenient sentence. 5 years spent in a medium-security prison. What transpired on the 16th of October? It was more unbearable than discovering my wife in the company of Trent. That was the day I found myself yielding to my cellmate, Jacob Ironclad Harris. I do not identify as bi, nor have I ever felt inclined to pursue a relationship with a man, yet circumstances left me with no alternative. I found myself with a toothless grin, a fractured nose, and two shiners that told a tale of their own. Ron and his group coerced me into this confining relationship. Submit or perish. From this nightmare, two silver linings emerged. Ron's exclusivity rendered me untouchable by other Aryans and shielded me from the threats posed by non-Aryan gangs. What sort of twisted system allows for such abuse of prisoners? I comprehend the weight of my 5-year sentence and the consequent loss of freedom, yet I find myself questioning why we tolerate and even jest about the physical mistreatment of inmates. I have not harmed anyone, so why must I suffer through this to continue living? Acquiring knowledge from the external world proves to be a challenging endeavor. After a span of 6 months and a flurry of letters exchanged, my mother finally made the journey to visit me. My father remained silent, his refusal to engage with me palpable, while my mother arrived not out of compassion, but rather to unleash her frustrations. Emily tied the knot with Trent and relocated to Texas. We were denied the chance to see Lily before their departure, and each time we called, she was never permitted to answer the phone. I have not had the pleasure of seeing or conversing with my sole grandchild. I implored Emily's mother, yearning for a glimmer of empathy, yet she merely chuckled at my earnestness. Their family's cruelty is beyond comprehension. Mom, I assure you, I never betrayed Emily's trust. She betrayed my trust. Every letter I penned to Lily returned to me, untouched and unopened, and I am collaborating with a prison attorney to seek the judge's permission for communication with my daughter. Before long, my mother began to soften, coming to understand the depth of my pain. Throughout her stay, she radiated affection and vowed to come back, that I refrained from sharing the darkest moments of my imprisonment, and she chose not to inquire. I shall refrain from elaborating on those 5 years. I failed to re-educate myself, acquire new skills, or evolve into a better version of myself. Following a calamitous parole hearing, I discovered the art of concealing my feelings. During my inaugural year as Iron Ron's cellmate, I honed my strength at the gym, channeling my animosity towards Ron, Emily, and Trent. My towering 6 feet 1 inch stature transformed into a robust 210 pounds of muscle. Upon Ron discovering a new companion, I was set free to navigate the world on my own. The initial encounter unfolded with 2 figures approaching me. They left a lasting impression on me, yet both found themselves in the hospital while I was placed in special housing for a month. Regrettably, my initial parole hearing fell within that month and was not postponed. Another 2 years passed before the opportunity to face the parole board arrived. As the hearing unfolded, I grappled with the elusive search for the perfect words, when a self-satisfied board member inquired why I had yet to express remorse for my treatment of my ex-wife. I found myself unable to restrain the torrent of bitterness that had long been festering within me. For 6 years, I shared my life with Emily, and throughout that time, I never laid a hand on her. In the sanctuary of our shared bed, she betrayed my trust, and my reckless decision to confront her boyfriend compelled me to yield to another man, in order to endure and fend off unwanted advances. The justice system allowed her to make a false accusation of violence against me, seize all our property, and hindered my ability to secure a competent lawyer. It grants my former spouse the power to restrict my access to my daughter. I endured the entirety of 5 long years, silence stretching between me and my daughter. The legal battle I waged against Emily yielded no results. Each day, I battled for my very existence. Although my legal expertise didn't expand, I did acquire the art of deceiving individuals in the digital realm. I secured a night position loading trucks, earning just above minimum wage, sufficient to keep me off the streets. Throughout the day, I immersed myself in the creation of a new character, Amy Carson, a widow dedicated to establishing a humane shelter for pets. The Save Our Furry Friends website reached out for donations, and with a treasure trove of tens of thousands of email addresses, I successfully garnered some financial support. Within a span of 2 months, I amassed $21,000, a sum sufficient to pursue my aspirations following my release. Candy Sweet perched gracefully on a bar stool, a captivating sight to behold. More than 6 years had passed since I last felt the warmth of a woman's touch. With a clinic certificate in hand and $700 tucked away in my pocket, I felt a sense of possibility ahead. Clad in second-hand slacks and a tailored sport coat, I made my way toward her. "Charlie," she smiled, clad in trousers. "What is it about pants that makes them preferable to a skirt?" I found myself pondering the evening ahead, as I prepared to share the night with this enchanting escort for a sum of $600, not including the tip. The slacks brushed against her prosthetic leg, a detail that had drawn the attention of some customers seeking a discount. While it held little significance for me, I found joy in the prospect of saving a few $100s. I requested a shot of bourbon and took a seat beside Candy, who was sipping a martini. The man to her right cast a disdainful glance in my direction. "The gentleman beside me was adamant about treating me to this drink," Candy remarked. I informed him that I was anticipating someone's arrival, thus rendering it unnecessary. Candy rested her hand on my shoulder, a silent cue urging me to maintain my composure. I took a moment, counting to 5, and maintained my composure. I extracted a $20 bill from my pocket. "Pardon me, good sir, that I am grateful for your generosity in treating my companion to a drink, but might I ask you to consider this as a form of repayment?" I presented the bill, allowing him to glimpse the scars etched upon my hand, a testament to the battles fought behind bars. With a sly grin, he accepted the $20 bill. One cannot fault a gentleman for making an effort in the presence of such exquisite beauty. "Enjoy your date," he remarked before turning and leaving. Candy expressed her gratitude for my chivalrous demeanor. "From where did you acquire such a remarkable skill in diffusing tense situations?" she inquired. "The hour is still young for delving into the intricacies of my life narrative, and I've come to understand that it's often wiser to refrain from probing escorts with inquiries. Let us delve into the subject of these cabanas." As the bartender set my bourbon before me, he remarked, "It's complimentary. I appreciate your courteous approach in dealing with that matter. Just last week, we experienced a conflict here that resulted in $400 worth of damages. I will never receive a cent from the intoxicated individual responsible, and my insurance falls short of covering the entire cost." I lifted my glass toward the bartender and savored a sip. He had served me a fine drink. Candy and I polished off our drinks, exchanged farewells, acknowledged the other fellow with a nod, and ventured out into the cool embrace of the night air. "I have a room next door. Do you need anything to eat before we head over?" I inquire. "No, I am perfectly well, thank you. Perhaps we shall indulge in some pizza or perhaps Chinese cuisine later. It is your choice, and we shall follow your lead." I grasped Candy's hand gently and guided her toward the hotel. As I stood in the elevator, a smile danced upon my lips, refusing to fade away. Candy cast her gaze in my direction. "What is it?" she inquired. "Your beauty is simply breathtaking." Upon entering the room, we immediately delved into our task. Subsequently, we took a moment to recuperate. That took me by surprise. Candy cast her gaze upon me once more. "What is this?" she inquired. I was pleasantly surprised by its quality and your enjoyment of it. Candy let out a joyful laugh. "Indeed, I am a seasoned expert in my field." She continued to laugh, though her laughter was no longer directed at me. "This is a first for me. I imagined that a professional in the field would need to put on a facade. Yet, it appeared you were not putting on a facade. Thank you very much. Shall we place the order now?" As we awaited our Chinese food, we indulged in a refreshing shower. For the first time, I caught sight of her prosthetic leg. It was a cold, unyielding metal just beneath the knee. She caught my gaze. "Does it trouble you?" she inquired. "In fact, it's truly remarkable." As we made our way to the room, I failed to observe any sign of a limp. We shared an intimate moment once more before retreating to the comfort of our bed. As the morning light filtered through, we stepped into the shower once more, and in that intimate moment, she noticed my gaze lingering on her prosthetic. She spoke of a motorcycle accident. "What is this?" "My leg," a topic of curiosity for many. "Your politeness held you back from inquiring." I received advice to maintain a certain distance from personal matters. Now that you've mentioned it, I'm curious. How did it all unfold? The gentleman I was seeing was named Randy. He acquired a new bike, eager to flaunt it. Asserting his prowess as a skilled rider, I made a foolish choice and rode with him. He began to flaunt his prowess, lost his grip, and we tumbled down. I have lost my leg. What transpired with Randy? Neither of us donned helmets. Yet another misguided choice. He struck his head against a lamppost, slipped into a coma, and a week later, succumbed to fate. When the machines were silenced, I realize I may come across as unfeeling, but the truth is, he crashed, and now my leg is lost. Without insurance, I found myself shouldering the entirety of my medical expenses. That is the reason I embrace my role as a strumpet. The most challenging aspect? When they discovered the truth, my parents severed all ties with me. They had no desire for a daughter of ill repute. There exist far graver circumstances than receiving compensation for the art of intimacy. What do you mean? For instance, my former spouse. I shared the news of Emily with Candy. She concurred that my former partner was indeed worse, labeling her an even greater strumpet. All I could do was chuckle, perhaps for the very first time. Do you feel a pang of hunger? Would you allow me the pleasure of treating you to breakfast? I inquired. Indeed, that would be quite pleasant. Next, I must make my way to class. I refuse to be a wanton forever. One often hears tales of men falling for courtesans, and with someone like Candy, it's easy to see the allure. However, let us embrace realism. She is a woman of allure and sophistication. And even if she weren't, what could I possibly provide to any woman? The next day, I found myself filled with excitement as I looked forward to the second part of my plan. In the heart of the city, I encountered Juan Price at a quaint diner. Juan, serving as an external representative for a black prison gang, set a price. And I consented under a single stipulation that as the blade grazed his throat, 2 names would linger in the air, softly spoken in his ear, mine and Johansson's. Upon Juan's agreement, I presented him with a sum of $15,000. Juan stood out as one of the brightest minds, charged yet never found guilty. I was aware of the unfolding events within. Your desire for vengeance is understandable. It is not an act of vengeance. It is a pursuit of justice. Johansson was a decent fellow. Approximately a year after he became Young's toy, he met his end. Whispers floated through the yard, suggesting that Ron had gripped the boy's head for far too long, ultimately leading to his strangulation. Johansson was worthy of more. Young endured 2 months in isolation and faced incarceration for failing to report Johansson's passing until the following morning. That is all. Regardless of the motive, he's as good as gone, and you understand that our arrangement will remain a secret, correct? I comprehend. I have endured for 5 years by choosing my words carefully. With a subtle nod, Juan took his leave. For days later, 4 inmates met their demise in a prison riot ignited by the fatal stabbing of Arian Ronald, known as Iron Ron Young. 1 inmate, suspected of the homicide, met his end during the chaos of the riot. The prison was shuttered for a span of 3 days. The journey of the Amy Carson website had reached its conclusion. I ended it before the authorities became aware and began to mistreat me. It had become a trivial issue, with an amount so meager that no agency would deem it worthy of their attention. I turned my attention to the search for Tina. 2 years had passed since Emily's Facebook page vanished into the digital ether. The previous entry mentioned that their family resided in the suburbs of Dallas. Lily had recently celebrated her 9th birthday, and the joyful family, Emily, Trent, and Tina, stood together in front of the enchanting gates of Disneyland. And then, silence reigned. Picture my astonishment when, on a whim, I decided to search for Joshua Carter and discovered he had returned to Chicago. No information surfaced regarding Emily, yet I found myself with a promising lead. A private investigator drained 1,000 of my illicit earnings to uncover Trent's residence and workplace, revealing that he no longer cohabited with my ex and detailing his after-work haunts. After a few moments, Trent finally noticed my presence beside him at the bar. It makes sense, considering I appeared quite different from the last occasion he laid eyes on me, during the moment of my sentencing for striking him with a Louisville slugger. My robust physique, broken nose, and closely cropped hair likely presented an imposing figure. He glanced my way and inquired, "Are we going to have a problem?" After much contemplation, I crafted a response to the question at hand. "Absolutely not, Trent. Delivering a blow with a baseball bat was an error in judgment. The price I paid was 5 years of my freedom, a myriad of nightmares endured behind bars, and the bittersweet joy of witnessing my daughter blossom into her own. I have come to inquire if you happen to know the whereabouts of Tina. If I had any information, I would certainly share it with you. Emily departed from my life, choosing another companion, and the trio vanished into the unknown. I observed Trent's gaze as he spoke. In prison, one learns to make eye contact, for the eyes are the windows to the soul. I am convinced that Trent spoke honestly. To strengthen my instinct, Trent went on, Charlie, I realize now that I shouldn't have engaged with Emily while she was still your wife. It was an error. I held deep affection for Emily, believing she felt the same for me. The pain was excruciating when she chose him over me. In that moment, clarity washed over me, revealing the depths of your emotions for the very first time. In the early days of our romance, she served me a platter of deceit, the truth only dawning on me when I returned here and engaged in conversations with couples from your past. Upon my initial encounter with Emily, she confided in me about the way you had taken advantage of her and Tina. She described your marriage as a facade, suggesting it was merely a question of time before she either succumbed or chose to leave you. I believed I was her gallant savior, clad in gleaming armor. Your blow only served to strengthen her narrative. Trent took a slow sip of his beer, then continued, I found myself at odds with Emily when she decided to exclude you and your family from Tina's life. I believed it to be an error. Emily insisted I step aside, declaring that Lily was not my child and that I held no authority in the matter. Lily and I shared a meaningful connection over the span of those 3 years. I cherished her deeply, yet I was never the father figure she sought. Lily has been thinking of you. I fought back tears when Trent uttered those words. Yet, tears brimmed in my eyes. Trent approached the bartender, requesting a pen and some paper. I'm uncertain of their final destination, but I can provide you with the name of the individual who took my place. Barry Stewart. A carpenter, he found himself employed by a real estate developer in Plano, Chase Homes. He toiled on residences just a stone's throw from our abode. The circumstances of how he and Emily crossed paths remain a mystery to me. It was through a neighbor's inquiry that I discovered Emily was busy loading his truck. I arrived home just in time, moments before they departed. Our voices rose in a cacophony just as the police pulled up. I recalled his name and workplace due to the involvement of the police. After they departed, I discovered a note in the kitchen that simply said goodbye. Our accounts have been thoroughly emptied. Countless resources were poured into the search for Emily, yet all efforts led to a dead end. A year later, I took legal action for infidelity and abandonment, sold the house, and relocated here. Trent's expression was one of deep-seated resentment as he recounted his tale that he continued to harbor resentment towards Emily and me. My sole desire was to catch a glimpse of my daughter. Grateful for Trent's insights, I treated him to a beer before departing the bar, my mind swirling with thoughts of what to do next. Trent had poured countless resources into the search for Emily. What compels me to expend my finite resources on such an endeavor? One individual probably held the key to the whereabouts of Emily and Tina, Emily's mother. Yet, it seems she would likely hinder my efforts to uncover the truth. The venture was fraught with peril. If apprehended, I would find myself returning to the confines of prison. Yet, no alternative came to mind. Margaret Turner was a steadfast soul, faithfully gracing the church every Sunday at the stroke of 9 a.m. She consistently tucked a spare house key within the faux stone by the patio door. What was the point of a spare key when Brutus, her loyal Rottweiler, was ever watchful? At 9:02, I scaled the fence that separated me from the alley behind her house. The key rested securely in its designated spot. I swung open the patio door, and the low growl of Brutus echoed in the air, a sound that would send shivers down the spine of anyone else as Brutus rounded the corner into the kitchen. I stood there, a flicker of hope igniting within me that he might remember who I was. 6 years had passed since Brutus last laid eyes on me. Yet, the passage of years held no significance. Brutus stood tall on his hind legs, his tongue brushing against my face in a warm, affectionate gesture. He recalled the figure who had rescued him from the shelter, ushered him into Margaret's home, nurtured his growth, and rewarded him with delightful treats. As Brutus and I rekindled our connection, I strolled to the counter, retrieved a dog treat from the jar, and tossed it onto the floor. Brutus hurriedly sought to grasp it. I seized the opportunity of the stillness to survey my surroundings. The kitchen remained untouched since the passing of John Turner 9 years prior. On Margaret's desk sat a computer, the device through which she managed her bills. As I powered it up, a password prompt materialized before me. After a brief pause for reflection, I typed John 3:16. The computer stirred to life, its screen flickering as it initiated the boot-up sequence. As it began, I rummaged through the drawers and discovered a collection of letters adorned with return addresses. Emily resided in El Paso. I plugged a flash drive into the USB port and transferred Margaret's photo, video, and email folders. Having gathered all that I sought, I powered down the computer, gently scratched Brutus behind the ears, closed the door, and returned the key to its rightful place. As Sunday unfolded, I found myself immersed in a nostalgic journey, watching videos and flipping through pictures that captured the beautiful moments of my daughter's growth. Lily had blossomed remarkably. She was an exceptionally lovely young girl. I felt utterly foolish for having overlooked those years. Through the envelopes and emails, I discovered that Emily and Lily had adopted the last name Turner. Emily cohabited with Barry Stewart, yet their relationship did not include the bonds of marriage. Lily found herself navigating the vibrant halls of 5th grade on Monday. I provided the information along with a $500 deposit to a private investigator in El Paso, who verified that the address and other details were up to date. On a Tuesday morning, following the day's work, I rapped gently on my parents' door. While my mother had come to see me during my time in prison, my father had not crossed my path since the day of my sentencing. That I end those moments. His gaze was filled with a profound sadness and an unmistakable ache. He stood at the door, and I found myself pondering whether he would grant me entry. "Hello, Dad." With a grand gesture, Dad swung the door open and ushered me inside the house. He gazed into my eyes before enveloping me in a warm embrace. Mary, the abode of Charlie.my mother, entered the room and enveloped me in her embrace as well. "Would you care for a cup of coffee?" "Absolutely, yes." We settled at the familiar kitchen table, a place where I once savored my childhood lunches. Margaret Turner was not alone in her fondness for routines. "Dear Mom and Dad, I want to begin by expressing my sincere apologies for disappointing you. I regret not heeding your insightful counsel. That I regret allowing a group of misguided individuals to sway me into seeking vengeance." My mother embraced me once more, while my father placed his hand on my shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I am aware of the whereabouts of Emily and Tina, and I seek your assistance in reconnecting with Tina. I possess a few $1,000s, ready to journey to El Paso and pursue every avenue necessary to secure visitation rights. Would you accompany me and lend your assistance?" Father was the first to respond. "What are your intentions moving forward? There's nothing aggressive, correct?" It pained me that my previous choices led to that being his initial inquiry. "I will seek the counsel of a lawyer before proceeding. I have served my sentence. I am not under parole, which allows me the opportunity to seek a court order for visitation. However, I must admit, I am a former convict, found guilty of assault. It seems most prudent for my parents to accompany me so that the three of us can submit an appeal together." Father cast a glance at Mother, and I could see the silent desperation reflected in her gaze. Her silence spoke volumes. Father consented. "When shall we depart? Will you be prepared in a week? I must tender my resignation and resolve a few matters. May we borrow your vehicle? We shall require transportation during our stay. Indeed, I shall bring it to the shop tomorrow and ensure it is prepared for action. Let us embark on our journey next Monday. Shall we?" With that, I poured myself another cup of coffee and indulged in the latest family gossip. Returning home brought a sense of warmth and comfort. In the days that followed, I dedicated my spare moments to discovering the finest family lawyers in the El Paso region. Having discovered one with excellent reviews, I picked up the phone and scheduled an appointment for the upcoming Thursday. We had a generous 3 full days to make our way to El Paso. I held on to the hope that my dad and mom would be able to make the journey. Father was nearing 70, while mother had just turned 66. The Lincoln Continental belonging to my father. It appears that dear mother has quite the admiration for Matthew McConaughey. The car would have been ideal for the journey ahead. However, once Dad discovered the Thursday appointment, we all reached a consensus to depart on Sunday, allowing us an additional day to traverse the 1,500 miles. On that Sunday, I embarked on a journey alongside my mother and father, a 36-year-old man ready for adventure. We ventured beyond the confines of the town. Now it's all freeways stretching endlessly, yet not so long ago, it was the iconic Route 66. As we approached St. Louis, my father recounted a tale from his childhood, sharing how, at the tender age of 3, his parents journeyed down that very road to Los Angeles. In those days, every road was a humble 2-lane path. It was impossible to cover more than 400 miles in a single day. The journey to Los Angeles spanned 7 days for the family. It appears that my grandfather, who passed away before my arrival into this world, had a position awaiting him in California. One of his comrades from the army was involved in the painting trade. In the aftermath of the war, as new structures began to rise, it was anticipated to be a veritable treasure trove. Regrettably, my father shared that his mother, my grandmother, felt a profound sense of homesickness throughout the entire year they resided in Pasadena. My grandfather gathered the family and made the journey back to Racine. In the end, all things aligned perfectly, leading to a favorable outcome. My grandfather ascended to the role of CEO at an aluminum smelter. He had been thriving, but fate took a cruel turn when he was discovered slumped over his desk, lifeless from a heart attack at the age of 58. A year later, I came into the world, bearing a name that pays tribute to him. Throughout the 4 days we journeyed in the car, my parents recounted tales from the past. Narratives I had either let slip from memory or had been too preoccupied to truly absorb in my youth. At the age of 18, I ventured away, marking this as the most extended time we had shared since our previous trip to Washington, D.C. At the age of 14, on Thursday afternoon, we made our way to the law office of Gladys Harper. This time, my interaction with the law stood in stark contrast to my past experiences, proving to be a surprisingly positive one. I divulged every detail to the lawyer. My conviction, the time spent behind bars, the silence that enveloped my relationship with Tina, the way my parents were also cut off from communication, the dissolution of my marriage to Emily, her later union, and the eventual end of her marriage to Trent. The lawyer's eyes sparkled with intrigue upon learning that Trent was pursuing a lawsuit for infidelity and child abandonment. The scene was far from picturesque, yet it did little to cast Emily in the light of an angel, either. The lawyer's hesitation to accept our case dissipated as my mother, on the verge of tears, recounted her struggle to keep her granddaughter close. I provided the lawyer with a deposit, and she commenced her work on the paperwork. At this moment, our only task was to bide our time. We chose to forego our weekend in El Paso and ventured, instead, to the breathtaking expanse of Big Bend National Park. Amidst our concerns regarding the happenings in El Paso, the weekend unfolded into a remarkable experience, filled with the beauty and tranquility of the serene park beside the Rio Grande. 4 days later, a call came through from Ms. Harper, the administrator. On Tuesday morning, we were scheduled to convene at her office to ready ourselves for a hearing before the judge. By Tuesday afternoon, Gladys Harper found herself engrossed in a flurry of activity. She possessed a signed statement from Joshua Carter, declaring that Emily had ended their relationship and cut ties with Tina. It was only later that I discovered Trent had done this under a specific condition. Lily needed reassurance that Trent had not forsaken her and that his love for her remained steadfast. Once more, we found ourselves in the courthouse lobby, making our way toward the judge's office. I possess a keen awareness of reality. Within the initial 10 minutes, it became evident that a strong rapport existed between the judge and our attorney. We responded to the inquiries posed by the judge. Ms. Harper then elucidated that our intention was merely to arrange a preliminary meeting with Lilito Rekindle Communication, and we were open to having a court-appointed social worker join us for this purpose. Ms. Harper addressed the judge, stating, "In light of Ms. Turner's previous behavior in obstructing the client's communication with Tina, as well as her actions regarding Joshua Carter, we respectfully request that Emily Turner be kept uninformed about the meeting. It is likely she will exploit this opportunity to postpone proceedings and further alienate Lily from the clients. That is where the collaboration and the financial investment we made in Harper truly bore fruit. I was utterly astonished when the judge granted the request. The meeting was scheduled for the following day. We were set to collect Lily from her school, the judge's order firmly in hand, alongside Ms. Harper and a social worker. Our task was to escort Lily to a nearby cafe, engage in conversation, and then return her home, all within a span of 3 hours. As I stepped out of the courthouse and into the embrace of the warm Texas sunshine, a sense of lightness and joy enveloped me. Unlike anything I had ever experienced before, I had to summon every ounce of restraint within me to refrain from embracing Ms. Harper in that moment. She mentioned that she was in the process of preparing the necessary documentation to secure visitation rights for both me and my parents. Let us convene tomorrow at 1:45 in my office. The social worker will accompany you to the school. As soon as we collect Tina, I will take my leave. The social worker will remain by your side until you bring Lily home. Until tomorrow, refrain from any actions that might complicate matters. Maintain your clarity. Maintain your composure in every word you utter or action you take, particularly in moments when Tina's mother may react with heightened emotions. Maintain your composure. We anticipate that she will act or speak in a manner before the social worker that will ultimately benefit our case when we seek visitation rights. Approach the social worker as if she is a friend, for she might very well become one when the case returns to court. The judge has bestowed upon us a precious gift. Let us honor it accordingly. With those words lingering in the air, she turned and departed. I embraced my parents once more, expressing my gratitude for their unwavering support. The ensuing 22 hours crept by with an agonizing slowness. We lingered near the hotel, savoring a meal at the quaint diner just across the street. A part of me braced for an impending misfortune. Would we arrive at Tina's school tomorrow only to discover that she was absent? My parents endeavored to comfort me, yet the concern etched on their faces was unmistakable. We made our entrance into Gladys Harper's office at precisely 1:35. Moments later, a petite, robust woman of Hispanic heritage stepped into the office. Ms. Marie Hernandez gracefully introduced herself, dedicating several moments to elucidate her approach to conducting surveillance, all the while ensuring her methods remained unobtrusive. It seems she had perused our attorney's motions, as she exhibited great kindness towards my mother. In the spirit of shared wisdom among grandmothers, Ms. Hernandez imparted her insights on the most compassionate way to reconnect with Lily following their lengthy and distressing time apart. In due time, we found ourselves thankful for this counsel. Anxiety gnawed at me as I contemplated Tina's potential reaction to my appearance. We entered the school's administrative office half an hour prior to dismissal. The principal and vice principal reviewed the court order, contacted the district office, and consulted with the legal department before granting permission for Lily to depart with us. Just 10 minutes before the dismissal bell was set to ring, Lily found herself escorted from class to the vice principal's office. The moment her gaze fell upon my mother, Tina's eyes sparkled with recognition, illuminating her face as she embraced the sight of her grandmother. "Nana!" Lily dashed into her grandmother's embrace, while my mom knelt down to return the hug with warmth. She wept openly. Lily lifted her gaze as she noticed my father making his way toward her. "Daddy!" Lily exclaimed, her little voice bubbling with excitement as she began to speak, mistakenly calling her grandpa by that endearing name instead. The name lingered, and we all found it endearing. Father lifted Lily into his arms, enveloped her in a warm embrace, and planted a gentle kiss on her nose. Lily cast her gaze in my direction, where I lingered at the periphery. "Daddy," her hesitation was understandable, given the changes in my appearance since we last met. Ms. Hernandez had recommended that Lily see her grandparents first, as they still looked the same as they did 5 years ago, and there's always a unique connection with grandparents. I knelt down and extended my arms, hoping for the warmth of her embrace. Lily dashed into my embrace, a moment of joy that was abruptly shattered by the vice principal's entrance, accompanied by Emily, who had been lingering in the parking lot to collect Tina. Emily surveyed the scene and erupted in frustration. "What on earth is happening? What brings you all here? Let Lily be." Miss Harper made her entrance, accompanied by Ms. Hernandez at her side. Ms. Harper presented Emily with a court order. Ms. Turner, this court order permits Tina's father and grandparents to visit her today for a duration of 3 hours, with Ms. Hernandez present to guarantee her safety and adherence to the stipulation of returning Lily to you within that time frame, commencing immediately. Emily cast a glance at the documents before dismissively tossing them back to Ms. Harper. I don't care what these papers indicate. You can't simply waltz in here and take my daughter, Emily declared, her finger aimed squarely at me and my parents. They have no right to be here. She's my daughter, Emily exclaimed, reaching for Tina, who sought refuge behind my mother. Ms. Hernandez, positioned before Emily, observed this unfolding scene. Ms. Turner, before she could proceed, Emily interrupted her with a barrage of insults, targeting Ms. Hernandez's ethnicity and appearance. Ms. Turner, should I call the police? If that's what you want, keep it up, and I assure you, jail is where you'll end up until you can calm down and cease your threats. At that moment, the vice principal stepped in, attempting to soothe Emily. They retreated to her office, allowing us to slip away with Lily and Ms. Hernandez. The 4 of us settled in a cozy cafe just a few blocks from the school, while Ms. Hernandez occupied a nearby table. She offered us guidance on initiating a conversation with Lily after years of separation. Heeding her counsel proved transformative. Lily appeared unbothered by our arrival, yet my heart shattered when my little girl, with tears in her eyes, asked, "Daddy, why didn't you ever call me or write me? What could have led to the absence of cards for my birthdays?" Fortunately, I had made the necessary preparations that I retrieved a sizable manila envelope from my mother's purse. "Tina, you were on my mind every single day we were separated. Enclosed are all the letters, postcards, and birthday cards I sent your way. All of them were sent back to me. Your mother decided to return them. She wished to keep me and your grandparents out of your life. Twice I sought the counsel of lawyers to persuade her to allow me to speak with you. I presented Lily with the envelopes, each one marked, 'Return to sender,' by Emily. But why did she do that, Daddy?" I wished to express, "Because your mother is a cow," but I refrained. Instead, I grasped her hand and replied, "One day, you'll need to ask your mom about this, but not today. Today, let us engage in a conversation, you, I, and your grandparents. Your well-being is dear to us, and we are eager to hear about your experiences in school. What names do your friends go by? Are you a participant in any sports activities?" 3 hours vanished in the blink of an eye. The 5 of us climbed into Dad's Lincoln and made our way to Emily's house, arriving precisely on schedule. Emily stood on the porch, a cigarette dangling from her fingers, her expression radiating frustration. I brought the car to a stop at the curb, and from the back seat, Tina's voice chimed in, "I want to show you my room." I turned to Emily and responded, "I don't know if that's a good idea today, Tina. Your mom doesn't seem to want us in your house, but it's my house, and I should have the right to invite people into my room." Tina's expression was one of deep offense as Mom added, "Why don't you show me your room today, Tina? Next time we can all witness it." Lily concurred. Hernandez insisted on accompanying them. Mom, Ms. Hernandez, and Lily exited the back seat and approached the porch. Dad and I strained to catch the words, but the conversation was charged with intensity. Despite Emily's fierce appearance, Ms. Hernandez exuded an even greater aura of intimidation. Moments later, Mom, Ms. Hernandez, and Lily stepped into the house, while Emily remained on the porch, casting sharp glares at Dad and me. She even managed to trip us up. To this day, the reason for Emily's intense dislike towards me remains a mystery. We lingered there for what felt like an eternity, around 10 minutes, when suddenly 2 patrol cars arrived, one positioning itself in front of our vehicle and the other behind. For a fleeting moment, I felt a surge of panic. Had my encounter with Ronald Young been exposed? Had someone unraveled the truth behind the internet scam I orchestrated? I was on the brink of reuniting with my little girl, and now this threat loomed over me as 4 police officers emerged from 2 patrol cars. Barry Stewart arrived in the driveway and hurried to the porch. Ms. Hernandez greeted them at the front door. My dad and I observed as the officers placed handcuffs on Emily and Barry, What on earth was happening? I felt an overwhelming urge to leap from the car, but Dad restrained me. I need to investigate. Charlie, you stay put.it was not a mere request. It was a command. Just as Dad was about to exit the car, Mom emerged from the house, swiftly approached the vehicle, and settled herself in the back seat. Barry and Emily found themselves guided into one of the patrol cars by 2 officers. Meanwhile, one policeman remained on the porch, while the other ventured inside the house alongside Ms. Hernandez. They returned with Tina. Mom, what on earth is happening? I have no idea. Ms. Hernandez was inspecting Tina's room when she spotted a toy on the shelf. She lifted it and then posed a few questions to Tina, though I couldn't catch their exchange. Once Lily responded, Ms. Hernandez retrieved her phone and dialed the police, urgently requesting 2 patrol cars to arrive swiftly. That's the extent of my knowledge. At that moment, Ms. Hernandez made her way to our car. I regret to inform you, but Lily will be accompanying me to the station. We have some questions to ask her. Contact Ms. Harper and arrange for her to join us at that location. It seems Lily will likely remain with the social services family until matters are resolved. I couldn't help but inquire, what precisely requires sorting out? What is unfolding? The details remain unclear for now, and I have no reason to believe that Lily has been mistreated. However, certain unsettling discoveries were made in her room, prompting a police investigation. For now, Lily will remain safe in my care. I ask for your patience during this time. Kindly place your trust in me. My sole concern is for Tina's well-being. Please reach out to Ms. Harper. After 3 weeks of unraveling the mystery, we finally pieced together the entire narrative. Thanks to the adeptness of Gladys Harper, the outcome was decidedly in our favor. When Ms. Hernandez stumbled upon the stuffed animal perched on Tina's shelf, she instantly identified it as a remote camera. She reached out to the authorities, and the footage proved sufficient to secure a search warrant. Barry's computer was discovered, containing all the damning evidence. It became clear that Emily was unaware of Barry's clandestine activities. Emily's situation was further complicated by her own echoing of disparaging comments regarding Ms. Hernandez at school. Despite Judge Torres's efforts to maintain impartiality, the impact on Emily was undeniable. Ms. Harper constructed an exceptionally compelling case, resulting in Emily being denied even visitation rights. 2 months after our arrival in Texas, we found ourselves departing in Dad's car, with Lily securely fastened in the seat beside Mom. For nearly the entirety of that first year, Lily and I took up residence in my in-laws' home. Heeding the therapist's counsel, we approached Tina's care with utmost caution. We even permitted Trent to join Tina's 11th birthday celebration. Embracing forgiveness was among the therapist's suggestions, which entailed granting Emily's mother restricted access to Tina. Such arrangements certainly kept me vigilant. After a half-hour conversation with Tina's therapist, I came to the conclusion that it was indeed for Tina's benefit, and I had to come to terms with it. The most challenging moment was when Emily returned to the city. We allowed Lilito visit her mother at her grandmother's house a few times, until her mother received a call from Margaret Turner. It pains me to bring this up, but I feel compelled to share. Emily has been saying some truly awful things about you, Charlie and Hank. It's hard to fathom that I raised someone capable of such cruelty. It pains me deeply, yet I cannot bear the thought of being estranged from my granddaughter. I believe Emily should no longer be with Tina. That was all I needed to know. Emily found herself severed from Tina. In pursuing legal action, she forfeited all her rights. To Tina, it was nothing short of repugnant. Emily unleashed a torrent of curses and threats towards all of us, including Lily and Margaret, before her mortified attorney led her out of the courtroom. Our family life had devolved into something reminiscent of a dismal episode of a sensational talk show. Defying the judge's order, Emily appeared at our doorstep at strange hours, disregarding the restraining order we ultimately issued, and pounded on our door whenever we failed to respond. Despite her weekend behind bars, nothing shifted. With the police proving ineffective as a deterrent, I resolved to try a different approach. Once more, I found myself seated across from Jewin Price at a downtown diner. Relying on her comes with a price of 1,000. Doubling that signifies a tangible consequence. And when it reaches 10, the effects are lasting. I wish to spare her any pain. Let's simply turn away. Very well, we shall kindly request her to depart from the area. Juan took the envelope and departed. It came as no shock when I discovered that 2 weeks later, Emily had returned to Texas. A year later, however, I was taken aback to find out she had moved back in with Barry Stewart following his release on parole. The most recent news I received about Margaret indicated that she and Barry had relocated to Nicaragua following his departure from parole. I found myself in conversation with Tina's therapist regarding Emily. The therapist mentioned that diagnosing someone without a personal meeting is quite challenging, yet based on certain behaviors exhibited by Emily, it seems probable that she may be grappling with one or more psychoses. Relief washed over me as I bid farewell to this woman, at least for the time being. Amidst the unfolding drama, I unearthed a valuable skill I had honed during my prison stint. With my father's financial support, I embarked on a new venture, launching a modest store in a bustling shopping center where I offered website design and personal computer repair services. No typical company would employ someone with a criminal past, placing such trust in them with sensitive information. Yet, running my own business proved effective. Hardly any of my clients bothered to investigate my background, and I conducted my affairs with integrity. No exaggeration. I earned between $50,000 and $60,000 annually, sufficient to cover the rent for our apartment and meet the needs of both Lily and myself. This arrangement had persisted for 4 years. Over the past 3 years, Lily has joined me in jogging and bicycling. Lily is poised to become an exceptional middle-distance runner. The high school track coach has taken notice of her talent. Next year, as a sophomore, she is likely to make her mark in high school competitions. On a bright Saturday morning, Lily and I embarked on an adventure, cycling and participating in a spirited fun run at Crystal Lake. The day unfolded with a 25-mile bike course, seamlessly transitioning into a 10-kilometer run. As we navigated the winding paths of the bike course, we remained side by side, sharing the experience. In the final stretch, we found ourselves trailing a remarkable woman, her determination evident as she pedaled swiftly, even with one prosthetic leg. Lily noted the bravery it took to face such a challenge. Naturally, this woman brought Candy to mind, though her short brown hair and distinct prosthetic legs set her apart. I didn't glance at her face as we walked by, yet the recollection of that evening with Candy filled me with a sense of discomfort. In the end, my focus was on my daughter. It certainly wasn't the ideal moment for such musings. We transitioned from biking to running, and after 42 minutes, as Lily and I neared the finish line, a woman surged past us, crossing ahead. Lily approached her as we paused to catch our breath, extending a warm introduction. The woman, her back turned to me, graciously accepted Tina's outstretched hand. It was a moment of pure amazement. "Thank you." Lily continued her stride, her words flowing effortlessly, while I lingered behind, hesitant to break her rhythm. It's quintessentially Lilito forge connections with new faces wherever she ventures. Recently, she has been encouraging me to engage with new faces and initiate dialogues with unfamiliar women. After a brief exchange, they paused and directed their attention towards me. It was a visage that would linger in my memory forever. "This is my father, Charlie Klein. Dad, allow me to introduce you to Casey Sweeney." As Candy, now Casey, glanced in my direction, there was a moment of uncertainty in her gaze. Yet something flickered in her eyes, hinting at recognition. "It was a pleasure to meet you, Casey." I extended my hand for a shake. "Dad, I mentioned to Casey that we would swing by that spot by the river where you enjoy dining. Casey has consented to join our ranks." I chuckled at the thought. "That would indeed be splendid. We're off to the Broken Paddle. Are you familiar with it?" Casey had some time to reflect, and she recalled the moment and the reasons behind our first encounter. "Perhaps it's best if I step back and allow you two to enjoy some quality father-daughter time. I'll take a moment to myself. Casey, I truly appreciate your kindness, but we've been together all week. I believe Lily would relish the presence of someone else for a change. Please, let's not let Lily or myself down. Come along with us." "Are you certain?" I asked. "Must I plead?" "If Father won't, then I shall. Please accompany us." Casey smiled. "All right, I'll see you there." As Lily and I secured our bikes in the car, I whispered a small prayer that Casey would keep her word and join us at the Broken Paddle. She arrived, and for the next 30 minutes, as I sat at a table savoring a burger and sipping a beer, they engaged in conversation over appetizers like long-lost friends. Lily was thrilled to discover that Casey had graduated from the Art Institute with a degree in photography. The Art Institute happens to be Tina's favorite museum in Chicago, and art is her most cherished subject in school. I took a moment to listen in and discovered that Casey is employed at a marketing firm, specializing as a product photographer for online catalogs. Many small retail shops, lacking in-house staff, rely on agencies like Casey's to develop their store websites. Their exchange was suddenly cut short when a young man approached Tina, inviting her to join him and his friends for a game of beanbag toss. Lily inquired of Casey and me whether that would be acceptable. Certainly, it presented an opportunity for me to converse with your father. I consented, and Lily departed with the young man. I watched her leave, relieved to maintain my gaze upon her. There's much to be done. She's already blossomed into a striking young woman. Indeed, she possesses a sharp mind as well. I have faith in her. Thank you for being here with us. I was uncertain about what to anticipate when you acknowledged my presence. I'm pleased to hear that. I can't recall Lily forming such a bond with anyone as swiftly as she has with you. There's something I wish to share with you. During my time in the industry, my responses to men were never quite like yours, especially in that moment at the bar, and the way you showed me respect that evening. Why did you never reach out again? I had hoped you would. It was time for me to share the truth with her. I had to confront my reunion with Lily first, and as it evolved into my role as a dedicated single parent, my attention shifted to nurturing our bond and prioritizing Tina's mental well-being. Fresh from my time in prison, the allure of falling for you was undeniable, particularly given your beauty. Yet, you hesitated to embrace feelings for someone like me. I never voiced that thought, though. Please refrain from misrepresenting my words and avoid that line of thinking. I apologize. Are you still engaged in escorting? I chose to use a more pleasant term to refer to Casey's occupation. No. Not since I graduated and secured this position. My income is solid and I have health insurance. I walked away the moment I was offered the job. My medical bills are settled, and I've received a new leg. How are your parents? I recall there was some distance between you and them. Your memory serves you well. My mother engages with me now, yet my father struggles to come to terms with the fact that I dedicated 18 months to selling myself. He insists he would prefer to mortgage their home and deplete his 401k, but I could never bring myself to put them through that. 3 years have passed since my last date, and while time has moved on, Dad appears eager to erase that dreadful chapter from our lives. Casey and I filled the remainder of the hour discussing Lily and our work. When Lily rejoined us at the table, it was time to take our leave. Is it possible for Casey to join us for dinner next weekend? In that instant, I was overwhelmed with joy at the thought of having such an intelligent daughter. That dinner marked the beginning of a journey filled with shared meals, blossoming dates, and ultimately, a beautiful romance. It's been just over a year since Casey and I began our relationship. I've been contemplating the idea of proposing to her, and Lily wholeheartedly supports it. She adores Casey, and the two have forged a close friendship. Before I take the plunge and ask Casey, I plan to seek her father's blessing. It is my hope that this will catalyze their sluggish reconciliation. Her father, much like many men, questions why Casey's history as a courtesan does not trouble me. Perhaps it would, but Casey and I have engaged in deep conversation about it. We share a mutual understanding that fidelity in marriage is an absolute must. There are those who might label me a fool for choosing to marry a former courtesan and allowing her to be part of my daughter's world. Yet, allow me to share a tale. 2 years prior to that fateful race day in Crystal Lake, I found myself in a budding romance with a wonderful woman, and our relationship was deepening. One afternoon, she inquired about the story behind my missing 2 front teeth. In that moment, I chose to unveil the complete truth, sharing the details of my connection with Ron Young, while omitting the darker chapter of the attempted violence that followed. Not long after, she withdrew from any dates or meetings. The implication was unmistakable. She could not accept a man who had resorted to the actions I took to endure a prison sentence. After several months of deepening our connection, as we transitioned into a serious and exclusive relationship, I felt it was time for Casey to hear the truth, come what may. When I concluded my story, Casey gazed up at me, her blue eyes shimmering with emotion. In our quest for survival, we often find ourselves engaging in actions that clash with our self-perception. The paramount consideration is to ensure that it does not alter your essence. You must extend forgiveness to yourself and commit to preserving the person you once were. You have returned to being Charlie Klein, a devoted father and a decent man. Should you find it necessary to extend forgiveness to yourself for the events that transpired in prison, begin that journey today. I hold you dear, Charlie Klein, and there is no reason for you to harbor shame. While Casey may not have voiced those sentiments during our embrace, her silence spoke volumes. At times, the act of forgiving, especially when directed towards the right individual, can be the key to unlocking a fulfilling existence.